Welcome to Cast and Crank Podcast. This one we tried for a while. I can say like a year, off and on. You're a busy guy, man. You've been doing lots of stuff. You've been pissing off entire communities. You've been, and you've been catching some big fish, bro.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a good time, dude. I appreciate you having me on. It's been a long time coming. I'm seriously honored. I've been listening to you for, I don't know, over a year now. And to be on here after Butch Brown and some of the legends of the game is an honor for me. People that I've looked up to since I started this game.
Yeah. Let's get to. So where did you grow up? Where did you start doing all this?
Nebraska, actually, the home of bass fishing in the world. You know.
And so I kind of skip over like how you started fishing, but where you're located. I'd like to know how did Let's talk about the YouTube channel, because that's kind of crazy. You built like a big platform where it's a lot. I mean, I know it was different. I talked to a lot of guys like Matty Wong and people, or even Greg Blanchard. They go, hey, it took a long time, but it was a different algorithm then too as well. Do you agree with that?
Definitely, yeah.
So like, how much time were you putting into in the beginning? Like, were you just like every day putting a fucking video up, or, you know?
Yeah, so I started probably like, I think 5 years ago. I think 2017 is when I started. And I kind of just started by throwing some videos up once or twice every 10 to 14 days. My wife got me a GoPro and I was like, I better use it, make something of it. And so I started making some videos, and I didn't know anything about it. I didn't know you can make any money on social media or YouTube or anything like that. But threw a couple up there and they got a couple thousand views. And I was like, cool. I don't know anything about this, but I'm going to go back to tournament fishing now, because that's where my focus was really for several years before that. And so I was like, all right, well, let's see where this goes. And then I kind of found out about some people that were doing this for a full-time living, making YouTube videos. And I was like, wow, this is crazy. I don't know anything about this, but let's give it a go. So I started making, a video every week, video every 10 days, because I was working full-time, 40 hours a week. And it was like winter, and Nebraska, we have like ice and shit like that. It's fucking terrible. And finally, summer came around, but my videos like once a week, twice a week were getting traction. And so summer came around, and I started putting some more up because it wasn't daylight savings. Had some more daylight. Fishing got better. It was open water season and stuff. So start putting more up, and then by the end of the mid to the end of summer, I was putting a couple up a week and saw the traction and saw some revenue coming in. I was like, fuck, what would happen if I made 5, 6, 7 videos a week? Were you working at this time as well, making 5 and 6? Yeah. And so it was tough. I mean, I don't even know how I did it, but my wife supported me and she was all in. So I was like, all right, cool. So I quit my job, which I got with my college degree. It was my career. And I'd always wanted a job in the fishing industry. I really wanted to be a professional fisherman on the tournament side of things. That's all I thought about. But for 5, 6, 7, 8 years fishing tournaments locally and regionally. But, you start to realize you can't take 8, 10, 12, 15 weeks a year off once you have a career. I wasn't making good money either. I didn't have shit. So I was like, all right, well, start giving this YouTube thing a go. And then I finally did quit my job, and I started putting out like 5 to 7 videos a week. Like I was grinding every day, all different types of content, then emphasis on bass fishing, but definitely just tried all sorts of stuff, fishing with my son, doing the seasonal stuff in Nebraska, trout fishing, cat fishing, all different types of stuff, tournament stuff. I was one of the first channels that really had an emphasis, I think, on putting tournament videos out there and sharing a vlog style tournament video. And that seemed to be something that really, really took off. And now look at it. So many tournament guys getting into the YouTube side of things. It's crazy. But yeah,
that's a whole other question for me, because I listen to a lot of other podcasts. I listen to like Luke Duncan. I listen to I always ask about advertisement, because I feel like it's a whole new world with advertisement. And I'll bring that up later, but I feel like you kind of carved a new path with a lot of other guys to actually go, hey, sometimes you can't just depend on like a Bassmaster elite guy to give you what you need. You're going to have to go to the everyday guy. I'm not saying you're the everyday guy, because you're a tournament angler, of course. You catch huge fish, but you need to go to the guy people can relate to, sometimes a little more. But we'll get into that later. I have a question for you. How did you,
Yeah.
so I'm at the point where I'm putting out a lot of podcasts.
Mhm.
What did you do to like make sure like to turn off when it's family time? You know, because I have issues with that when it's like, hey man, I'm fucking always on the phone, promoting, answering, doing all this shit. Like,
Yep.
did you run to the point where you're like, I'm doing this too much. I got to figure some shit out.
Yeah, I mean, I wish I had an answer for you there, but
Nothing.
there's no such thing as work-life balance. I mean, when you have something like this, it's your baby, and so it's tough because like you know getting into this, and especially where the industry is at now with social media, how saturated everything is. Podcasting, video, pictures, even Instagram, Facebook pictures, stuff like that are just completely saturated. Everyone's doing it. So you can't sleep. You can't take any free minute and not grind and figure out new ways to put content out and then spend all the time putting the content out. So I wish I had a better answer for you there, but there's no way to do it other than you have to have the best communication possible
With your wife, huh?
With your kids, because they got to know how important it is to you. And I've been lucky enough to have what seems to be the same support system you guys have.
I hope so. So like learning, so you've done it all. So like the cool thing I like to hear about is like I have certain questions. So like one would be like, there's algorithms with everything. YouTube, you probably seen less like a different type of views over than what you had in the beginning, right? Where stuff was taken off fucking quick in the beginning. Now it's kind of petering off a little more because it's saturated market.
Yep.
And same thing with Instagram. I feel the same thing. Even when I started, 3 years ago, I feel like shit's not jumping like it used to. Do you have a backup plan to like go, man, what if this YouTube thing falls apart? What are you going to do now? Is that more of like getting into the bait building part, getting into the design part?
Yeah, for sure, man. So that's one thing that I had an emphasis on from the beginning was luckily getting different revenue streams from all different sources from the start. And I actually, before I even did the YouTube thing, I was building my own baits and custom painting baits for people to sell to fund my tournament fishing and shit on the side. So I had that basis. But another thing that really helped me, that's been the biggest thing for me, is I got in good with 6 Sense Fishing right when the company was a couple years old. I went down, I was actually in Houston where I live now for work. And I hit up the owner and I was like, dude, I've been fishing with your baits the last year or so. They're badass. And I just want to reach out to you and let you know I'm a tournament fisherman and stuff. And it's weird, but I'm actually down here in the Houston area. Is there any way I could stop by? And he's like, totally cool, man. Come on by. I'll introduce myself. I'll show you the shop. So our relationship started then. And 6 Sense had like 2 or 3 baits at the time. And me and Casey, the owner, just kind of kept talking. And we built this friendship and we grew at like the exact same rate, both the 6 Sense brand and different types of baits we came out with. And my channel kept growing and growing. And he kept seeing the side of things where I was bringing in revenue for him. And so he's always been the type of person in the company that's been like, well, the more baits you sell, I mean, you don't ever need to come to us and ask for anything. We're going to be the ones that start giving you more money and more sponsorship dollars. And it's got to the point now where a year and a half ago now, I actually became an owner with 6 Sense.
Oh, no way.
Yeah. And so it's been great. I moved down here to Houston in March, the end of March this year. And we also started a sunglasses company, Waterland, about a year and a half ago as well. That's been extremely successful. So I've always made sure that I've had different income streams. So if I just keep getting views and keep showing how good these baits are and promoting them, that's one big income stream for me that I will always have. And of course, spreading across all different types of platforms and trying to stay on top of things has been huge for me as well. I'm not big into the whole TikTok fad that has been going down. I've never gotten to that much.
I can't either. That's one thing I just can't do. Like I tried it and post some stuff and I'm just like, this is so fucking my kids, like I have an 18-year-old and a 12-year-old and they're look at this shit and I'm like, I just not my thing. And there's some guys that take off on it, good for them. But I think that's a different genre of a person, like a younger guy, maybe, and how old are you right now?
I'm 32.
So you're an older guy, you're not a early 20s or a teen, you know,
Right,
like,
right.
so
Yeah.
it's something where I can't even, I'm 40. I'm like, I'm not dipping into that. So
Yeah, I feel that.
talk about big baits. When did you start getting into the big bait, and when did that kind of kick the excitement to get into that, you know?
Yeah. So once again, lived in Nebraska in the Midwest. Really our biggest fish in our lakes in that area were 6-7 pound at class fish, which not too small to eat a big swim bait, of course. But when the majority of your fish are under 3 pounds, and the water quality there is very poor, definitely not the ideal location to get into it. But like I said, I was into tournament fishing huge, and a huge part of that for me, to cut the learning curve, I knew that I either had to get really good with my electronics and graphing offshore and finding schools of fish and hard spots and brush pods and stuff like that, which I didn't have the money for to get good electronics, or B, figure out a way to catch them using different types of baits and presentations that other people were not trying yet. So that's how I got into the swim bait game. And it started off with like 6-inch HUDs, and S waivers, stuff like that, 168s. And I really saw a lot of success, like almost immediately with it, trying these baits. Now I'm definitely fishing them in different types of ways in different places than a lot of the guys in California. And I got big into like the Swimbait universe and stuff, all the different stuff, the online forums, and the Swimbait Underground forum was huge for me, and developing. And so I spent every second possible reading up on these forums, what line, rod, reel, everything everyone was using. And then I'd watch some videos, Tactical Bass and Matt Allen used to put out a lot of great content about specific swim bait stuff. And I really learned a lot from those videos and other guys. And then I'd go apply them and learn that 90% of it wouldn't work at all for me in Nebraska and Iowa in those areas. Apparently not every lake's like Clear Lake around the country, no. If you're not aware. But those videos were incredible for my learning curve. And so I got into them there, and it was a way for me to catch 1 or 2 big fish every tournament, or at least have an opportunity to. And from there, once I started with my channel, started traveling quite a bit around the country. And so that really opened my eyes to different ways different people present these bigger baits, and for me to fish better fisheries. I'd come down to Texas in the winter 1 or 2 times. I'd see how some of these fish react. I got bigger into big glide baits, big shad glides at the Hinkle, the Phony, stuff like that. And just from there, I guess, big line throughs, and I started seeing ways to apply them to the point where I knew if I could get some good water quality, any lake in Nebraska, or Iowa or Missouri or Kansas, anywhere I fished, I had a really good opportunity to catch some giant fish, bigger than average fish. And so I just kind of progressed, got really big into the MS Slammer. That's a bait that I think is just incredibly underrated, that I still use to this day, all 3 sizes of it. And then triple trouts, big rats, stuff like that. And here we are today in Texas, where I won't go out on any body of water without 5, 6, 7 swim bait rods on my deck, ready to go, all different types of baits, where I know that's an opportunity to catch the biggest one in the lake.
So did it kind of change up now where you're still doing the tournament thing somewhat, right?
I didn't fish as many this year as I would have liked to, but I think moving forward, I'm going to here in Texas. I kind of used this last year as just kind of learning these bodies of water and how these fish act a little bit. But yeah, I'm going to get a lot more serious into the tournaments this year for sure.
So did you move to Texas because you think that's where the next big fish is going to come out of?
Well, I know that's where the big fish are coming out of. But
well, I mean, the next record, like a 20,
yeah. Oh, yeah, it's going to happen. But a lot of it was business-wise. Okay. And, of course, I mean, it just got old in Nebraska and difficult. Of course, we have open water season, and that's great, and I catch fish doing that. And then we have the ice fishing stuff, and those videos get a decent amount of views, actually, too. I think people find that type of content interesting. But we always had these dead periods where the water was muddy and 45 degrees until frozen in the fall. And then in the spring, you could catch them occasionally right when the ice got off, but it'd be a month dead period there too. And sometimes all winter, you wouldn't even get good ice to fish on. You have to travel all over. And it just got super old. And down here in Texas, you can fish year round. You can find a decent enough bite year round. And so between the business with 6 cents and Waterland, and of course the best fishing probably in the world, bass fishing in the world, it was definitely a deciding factor.
Did you have a mentor for the big bait thing? Like someone that kind of helped you out? Like when you started like struggling a little, you're like, hey man, I mean, someone you could talk to. Was there anyone like that?
So the most important thing for me was, I think, that everyone needs to have was no. I did not. I did it all myself. I learned it all myself. I did go fish with Oliver from Big Bass Dreams a couple years ago for the first time, California. Spent 3 or 4 days with him, and that really opened my eyes to some of the possibilities with some big baits and how he applied them and stuff. But really, when I got into it, no one was doing it in my area. And so that made me more confident than anything really was. I mean, every fish that I knew that my bait was in front of, it was the first time they saw it. So I think that's a big confidence thing, which is confidence is the most important thing with swim bait fishing and the hardest thing to build, obviously. So
were you not taking any rods with you when you'd go? Would you just like take a couple swim bait rods, not take like a jerk bait rod or anything to make sure you're just throwing the swim bait when you're learning?
Generally I would do that in Nebraska, but it was, like I said, it was pretty limited. And, it got to the point where 90% of the time you couldn't catch them on it, or at least I couldn't catch them on it. So, yeah. But it's good to learn on those types of fisheries. And I think it definitely sharpened up my skills on a lot of different baits, fishing that tough of environment.
A lot of guys out here, at least maybe because of the pressured water, think electronics play a big thing where they don't like to come up on fish with electronics. You seem to use it a little more, correct?
Yeah, for sure.
You don't think it affects the fish at all? Maybe, like when something's coming up and all the live scope, all the shit going on.
Yep. So that's one thing from listening to your podcast. I'm just like, I'm in awe listening to some of these guys and the local guys that aren't well known, but are killing it. And then of course, like legends of the sport that come on. And I'm just soaking up all this information. But it's one thing that I disagree with a lot of those guys at the same time. Yes, they feel it. They don't like it. It's a negative influence on them, negative association with being around boats, with being around baits. But if you get extremely proficient with forward-facing sonar, I used to play baseball. I grew up I played college baseball, and I look at it as at-bats. I feel like if I can get 100 at-bats a day firing at fish that I can see on my live sonar, I'm going to have more opportunities than going out to my favorite rock point and dragging that HUD up the point, not even knowing if there's fish there at all with no electronics. And it's worked out pretty well.
No, I agree. That's kind of a question I had for you, because here, like I said, California's got to be a different fishery than everywhere else.
Yep.
Super pressured, it seems, to where you might be able to get away with a little more somewhere else. Maybe in Texas, I don't know how the swim bait fishing is. I've only had one guy on, Jared Swafford, and he's over there. I'm not sure where he fishes, but he said it's not as crazy as it is here yet, but it's picking up a lot over there.
Yeah, for sure.
Next thing. How in the fuck did you piss off so many people that were swim baiters? What did you fucking do?
Oh my God. I don't even know where to go with this too much, other than I said one word on a damn Instagram post. I'll explain the situation to you guys. Like I said, dude, I've grown up like such a big fan of swim bait fishing, learned so much, tried to provide as much to the community as possible, and thanked as many people and try to show what I've learned to other people as well. And so it's something that I did take personal when it went down. But I don't know if you saw what happened, but my buddy Kevin Baxter, he'd been posting on the Swimbait universe Facebook group some of the new 6 Sense baits coming out, and it's no secret Kevin doesn't spend a lot of time on the water. He spends a lot of time talking to a lot of people that know a lot about fishing. His career and family life doesn't allow him to spend a lot of time. So he was simply showing some new baits 6 Sense had out, and got torn apart a little bit because people were like, where's the hook rash on that bait? And how can you say it's good if you haven't taken it out in the water? Where's the fish catches on it? Which I see both sides of it. I totally get that, man. And that's part of something in the industry. It seems like deciphering through bullshit is one of the biggest things to growing as an angler in this industry. That's incredibly hard. So I get it. I totally get it. And so he simply I posted a video. So I went out in my pond. I got a little backyard pond out here with some bass I put in it. and I was burning this swim bait through them, and they were just crushing it. And so I was like, Cole, my camera guy, was like, you got to get some footage of this. This is incredible. And so I put it on Instagram. I didn't say like, look how good bass eat it or something like that. I was just like, here's the new bait. Check it out. This is what the action looks like. And fish are just destroying it. And Kevin comments on it and was like, just don't tell the guys on Swimbait Universe that it's a good bait. And so I replied to the comment and I said, clowns. And I was simply directing it at the people that talk shit about him and gave him a hard time.
Defending your buddy. You're defending your buddy.
Defending my buddy a little bit. On my own page.
Yeah.
Replying to one of the couple dozen comments. Nothing crazy. It wasn't a viral post or anything like that. Or I didn't say people on Swimbait Universe are all clowns. And that's where it went. That's what started it.
And it just like went off from there. Was it just
yeah? Man,
did you really get messages from fucking dudes going "fuck you"?
Oh, dude, I got death threats from people because I said that.
Oh my god, dude.
So it got completely ridiculously blown out of proportion, and so I made a little apology video, and I reached out to a couple guys that commented and were offended and stuff, and I'm like, listen, man, probably wasn't talking about you, but I do have a disdain for a lot of the posers and stuff in the Swimbait community, but it's the same. Every community's got them, but the dudes that just go out and they buy up every drop bait and they want to go on be an expert online and talk about something that they don't necessarily know that much about. And as we all know in fishing, there's no 100% facts about anything. Everything's different every day on the water. But these guys know everything. So that is the type of person that drives me a little bit crazy. But man, I don't know how it got.
I saw like a couple posts and I'm like, what the fuck is going on, man? And I kind of read them, and I'm not part of Universe. I don't really know. I had Wayne on before and a couple other guys, and I just known a Zoom call. That's it, And I'm like, what the fuck is going on? And I had no clue. And then I just had people go check this out, and But the thing is the proof is in the pudding. Like, it's not like you didn't show you catch a big fucking fish.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? To me.
And I still go out and catch big fish on big baits all the time. Yeah. So, it is what it is. I wouldn't like to be called a clown either, but I think a lot of people took it way more personally than it needed to. So
what's your opinion on the injection glide bait to a garage built? Like, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
because
for sure.
what's your outlook on it? Can you do the same thing you think with an injected bait, like a 6 cents bait, that you could do with a garage built resin bait, or you think there's different factors that play into the whole game?
Well, that's a broad spectrum there. It's not like all garage baits are built the same. There's a million different ones, especially now, which is a great thing for the industry. It's been a great thing for me getting to try all these different baits and apply them and see how the fish react. It makes me learn every time I'm out there. But yes and no. I've put out, man, I caught like 6 fish over 8 pounds on the 6 cents glide bait this summer. And then another 40 or 50 over 4 or 5 pounds. It catches the shit out of fish. We worked on it for 3 years, but obviously you're going to have differences in the two baits where, there isn't very many mass-produced plastic glide baits that are silent, and most resin baits are silent. Mm-hmm. So that's going to be a difference. You're going to have, generally, you can have more custom type colors in the garage builds and stuff like that. You can have wrapped baits and stuff. But one big thing that I've kind of learned, especially with the forward-facing sonar with the big baits this last couple years, is I spend a lot of time with lead weights and different lead wire, that is, and different hooks. I'm constantly changing these different baits that I'm fishing to do different things, sink different ways, float up different ways. Spend a lot of time with a drill. I keep a bunch of tools in my boat so I can change baits up all the time, change rigging methods, change hook placement on baits. And I don't think people realize that because I don't like to talk about it a bunch. But once you have some lead wire, you can make a bait do a lot of different things. You can switch up hook size. You can switch up the sink rate, the float rate, heavy sink, fast sink, stuff like that. You can get it tuned in just right. And that's another thing with those different at-bats I'm talking about with that forward-facing sonar. I can see exactly what those fish do every single time it comes past them. I can see if it goes over their head, they don't flinch, which rarely happens. I can see if they follow it from 10 feet behind 4 feet underneath the bait. That fish is never going to bite. I can see if they're just like coming up quick, closing gap, stop, hits the brakes, turns around. I can see if they're slow underneath it, and then it comes up and they fire up to it and they hit the brakes and stop. And then they fall in, they nip at it later on. And I can see those fish react in different ways. And I know exactly the different types of modifications I need to make immediately on the spot. And that's just another reason why I feel like
it makes
so
sense.
much rather have them hear that ping and that noise and that unnatural noise and know that you're there, but be able to see those things than just have no electronics at all.
Have you tried it without like rolling up on a spot that holds and try and turn everything off, see if anything changed?
Yeah, I have
just
before.
Nothing. Not worth the time.
I don't do it enough anymore to know, honestly. But one thing I think is huge that I don't think it's talked about enough. I think trolling motor noise is louder than about anything, than any electronics. And so that's one thing. I fish with Oliver. I fish with Colby Pearson. I don't know if you're familiar with him up in Oregon. They're both very big on shut that big engine down, come up to a spot, and don't touch that trolling motor and just see what happens. And that's a big thing for me, whether I'm fishing a big bait or flipping a worm in a tree in a tournament or dragging a jig or whatever. That definitely makes a big difference. I've gotten to the point where, especially if I'm fishing a tournament, if my boat is easing up pretty quicker than I want to a tree I'm about to flip, I don't touch a trolling motor, and I crush my trolling motor right into that damn tree. I don't touch it, because more times than not, you'll get that bite, and then you figure it out from there pretty much. If you would have turned that trolling motor around and blasted that tree out, never going to catch that fish. Right. It's moving hundreds of gallons of water every time you touch that, and that's a huge thing.
And that's like slamming something on the floor and fucking, like when you're pulling that up sometimes, and salt, because I fish calico a lot. That's what I do. I slam it down. It doesn't fucking matter. You just go,
Dude, jealous about it too. I went out and fished with Afrin
you?
War baits 3 or 4 years ago.
Yeah.
Can't believe I haven't made it back. It was some of the most fun I've ever had. This calico stuff, and fished with Benny Florentino, went out to SCI, and oh my God.
Oh, you got to go to Disneyland for calico. So my boat's an inshore boat, so I fish, coastal stuff. But SCI is like the Disneyland of calico fishing, where you're catching big ones, and our big one's like a 10. That's like, if you caught a 10, that's like catching like a 17 or 16.
Yeah.
If you catch bigger than that, that's like the 20,
Yeah.
So, you're correct. I think the trolling motor noise is like a big deal, especially slamming it down. I heard some other guys say the same thing. Did you do some big bait tournaments as well?
I haven't done an exclusive one.
No.
I've used them. So I fished, I'm going to fish some big fish tournaments this year in Texas. Luckily, we got some big, like national ones down here. I fished like Big Bass Bash at Rayburn this fall, and I won an hour actually on a hinkle, which was badass. But I'm going to fish those all this year, because they're like $100,000 tournaments and stuff.
That's crazy. It's that big over there for big fish, huh?
Yeah. It's amazing, man.
Your club tournaments are probably huge there too, as well. They are.
And we got Tuesday night tournament at Conroe that'll get 70, 80 boats to fish for 3 hours on Conroe. It's incredible.
Yeah, they were saying that same thing in the Delta. I had some of the Delta guys on. They're saying, it's the same deal.
Well, that's cool. Yeah. I'm glad to hear that there's that big of culture out there on the Delta.
Oh yeah. Now here's another question, since you're a tournament angler. How hard is it to put down the big bait sometimes if you're in a tournament? Have you been incorporating that somewhat?
Yeah, definitely. Back in Nebraska, I almost didn't throw it a lot of times, but now here in Texas, it's going to be very difficult. And it's almost gotten to the point, especially I've gotten very specific, where I almost exclusively fish with live sonar, to the point where I don't think I caught a fish on a jig. I caught him on a swim jig, but a regular jig, football or flipping, this last year. I don't think I caught one in 2021.
Wow.
And as someone that grew up, that was my strength, was dragging and flipping. That's pretty incredible, because I do see fish on the bottom, and I see bluegill beds, schooling areas and stuff, but I spend so much time with a bait 6 inches to a foot above that fish's head that I've thrown so many swim baits these days. It's crazy.
Now you could just drag a HUD instead and kind of get the same reaction for the bigger bite, possibly, right?
Sure. Yeah. Yep.
What's your PB largemouth?
I just caught it a couple weeks ago. It was about 12.4.
12.4. Was it in Texas Lake, your local lake?
Yep. for sure.
Was it on a 6 cents bait?
No, it was on an unnamed line through bait.
Can you break down the conditions a little bit? Just what you're doing? You got to tell me a lake or anything. But.
Yeah, man. So, talk about forward-facing sonar. This was incredible. So this lake's one that we blew out and made the most popular lake in the world, probably because we caught a 16-pounder and a 60-pound limit last spring. And nothing like Butch's 68-pound float limit. By the way, what the hell is that all about?
Dude.
God, that guy's a freak.
Yeah.
Incredible. But anyways, so we went back there a couple of days ago or a couple weeks ago, and we were fishing, and a lot of these fish are on the lake was down like 25 feet like 10 years ago. And so all this buckbrush grew up. And it's probably 5 feet off the bottom. And so now it's come up 25 feet. So that's all 15 to 20 feet below the surface. And those big ones just live out all year long. And this has been another part of my big fish has been understanding big fish behavior and where they live. But these fish live in the same stuff all year long. They live on the most prominent offshore structure. They go up to spawn maybe, but besides that, they ain't up there eating frogs and stuff like that. But they're out off there, and so generally you catch them over the top of that stuff on Alabama rig, jerkbait stuff. But they were just being spooky because this lake's gotten piss pounded since we kind of showed it last year. So we were there, and I went to this spot where I knew some big ones had been, and I was like, fuck it, Cole. I was like, let's pull in real quiet, like we were just talking. And so I pulled in like 100 yards away from it, and I was like, we'll just ease up, blow in with the wind. And so I do that, and I was kind of just like drinking probably an energy drink because I don't drink water. And I'm eating it on it. And I'm painting around, and I was like, holy shit, that's a wolf bag of bass coming in. And this is one thing that I've kind of figured out in Texas. These big fish travel in these like 6 to 12 fish wolf packs and just fucking mow bait fish down. And it must be the best way that they can hunt and overtake bait fish is to work together a little bit. I always thought the biggest fish were loners, but it hasn't been that way for me. So they're blasting towards me. I can tell they're moving really quick. I can see them, and they're really fuzzy returns. And when fish are moving really quick on live scope, it gives really fuzzy returns. I was like, holy shit. So I'm looking around for bait to throw, pick up that line through, and I fire it past them. And they're in like 40 feet of water, and they're probably 25 feet down and 40 feet. And I casted it, and it went behind them, and they're hauling ass towards me. So I'm reeling really quick. And so I let my bait sink down. They didn't see it. So I reel quick to get up to it. And the bait just flies up in the water column like 5 feet below the surface. And all of a sudden I see like three of them. You see them just light up on that live scope and kind of stop, change their posture. And one of them just like beelines up to it. And I was like, oh God, here it comes. My line wasn't even tight at this point because I'm just like feeling it come up. And I don't know if I missed him or what. And that one didn't connect, but my bait comes a little further, and I see one just straight up and down the water column, crushes it. And it was a 12-pounder. The crazy thing was there was like 10 fish in that school, and they were all that size, probably some a little smaller, some a little bigger. So
what's the lake record? What's the lake record there?
16-4. We caught it last year.
That's what you guys caught. Your boy caught it though.
Yep.
Oh wow. So here's another question for you. YouTube, because I don't have a lot of big YouTube guys on. How do you go about not blowing out spots as a YouTube person and being like polite enough to dudes and being like, hey, I'm going to fish here, or you know what I'm saying? Without pissing fucking people off. I'm sure it happens. I mean,
yeah, man, it's a pain in the ass, honestly. And we learned from fishing this lake and how tough it is now to catch these fish that we aren't going to say anything to anyone. Like my wife and my camera guy were the only ones that knew where we were at this last time we went out, but a lot of people figured it out now. But yeah, there's no way to do it. We lie to people about where we're at in every video, and we're in fucking Louisiana today fishing. And we miss a lot of good camera angles and content that we could have got, at the local hotel or dumping the boat in at the ramp. And that's part of it. But the good thing was, this lake that we went to, and we didn't blow it out. There's still fish to be caught, but there's hundreds of boats there every day now. We were the only boat on the lot first 2 days we fished it.
Oh shit.
Last year. But
Oh man.
people locals have been a little pissed off. A couple of them, hey, we were catching big fish before you came out here. We were catching 8-10 pounders all the time. I was like, okay. But then a lot of them have said, our community, since it flooded and no one knew about this lake, there was no one out here fishing.
Yeah.
The economy was wrecked. No one was coming to the hotels, the lodges, the restaurants, the gas stations, and now it's booming. And so thank you so much for doing that. And so that's cool. That makes me happy to hear that at least. But yeah, moving forward, we're gonna have to be a lot more careful. So I guess we'll see what happens moving forward.
But you're kind of focused on your lake right now, not really traveling around, hitting other lakes, or are you moving around?
We're moving around quite a bit.
Okay.
Now. Yeah, and we're going to a new lake that supposedly the state record got shocked at. We're going there this next week. So
you trying to hit state records everywhere?
Every cast, man.
Really? That's the goal, huh? Next state record, and the next state is coming to you. He's coming to claim your state.
We've seen him on live scope for sure. And I mean, once you see an 18 to 20 pounder on live scope, it's not much of a jump to a 22, So
that's so big, man.
Yeah,
that's huge.
Crazy.
And to see him on live scope, like, I'm sure it fucks with you in the beginning when you're getting into it. You're looking down the whole time and not even paying attention sometimes, or you kind of, right?
For sure, man.
Yeah, that's got to be hard, because even when I'm fishing local lakes, you'll see dudes just looking the whole time.
Yep.
I'm like, fuck, man.
Yeah,
I don't have that kind of money, man. I'm poor.
Well, it's worth it. The crazy thing to me that I don't understand with like the Swimbait culture, a lot of it is, and maybe I'm just naive with it or something, but they got these dudes that are in like $1,400 John boats with no electronics and a shitty trolling motor, and they got $30,000 worth of baits in the damn compartment behind them there, and they're like, "Oh yeah, we don't got the big money like you do." And I'm just like, "All right, man."
Right? I get a deal on my baits. I don't have a lot of swim baits. I probably have seriously 20.
Yeah,
and I learned from people telling me, like I just talked about on the last podcast, you got to put down. I'm a noob, dude. I'm not by any means like good. My shit's calico. My shit isn't swim baits. Mm-hmm. So I'm learning more and more. I got to just not take more than a couple baits to learn those really good.
For sure.
And I feel like that's a lost thing. Well, I don't know. It sounds like it's a lost thing where it's easy to buy everyone's fucking bait and try it all out. And it's the thing right now. Everyone wants it. I mean, the bait makers are killing it. Thank God it's doing really good. But,
absolutely.
But I mean, a lot of people collect, I'm sure. They're fucking collecting baits or just having our rods and reels, whatever it might be.
Yeah.
What rod and reel do you guys, or do you use for swim baits?
I use a bunch of stuff. We got actually I got my own series of rods with 6 cents, and I got a 7.9 heavy with that. And I can throw the Hinkle with that and stuff. It's not the best rod for it, but I'll throw a ton of baits in the 2 to 4 ounce range. It's perfect for those. But I throw a lot of Dobbins rods, and then we're coming out with a custom US made series from 6 cents too. And I've got 3 or 4 of those prototypes. They're super badass. They're made on TFO blanks. They're top of the line, super light, super powerful. And great thing is we don't have to wait for the COVID overseas time. You don't have to wait 10 months to get a damn rod over here. We can make them within a month. So those will be coming out soon, and I'm jacked about that, man.
That's really cool. That and getting TFO. So are the blanks are rolled here? Yeah,
all of them are rolled here. 100% made in the U.S.
Wow, that's cool. Danny Cadota. I don't know if you know who that is. He's an old time.
Yeah,
he was talking about that Semper Fish. Their stuff's made up in the same guys that roll the blanks for a lot of people.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So that's really cool that you're trying to do it all in the U.S.
Yeah, we're trying to move as much as possible. We're a Texas family-owned company, and so I mean we're to the point where we're getting all our soft plastics. Just about all our soft plastics are now made here, and we're even looking at somehow figuring out a way to make hard baits here too. So,
what exciting. About what reels do you like using for your big baits?
Almost exclusively Shimano Tranx.
Really? Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I've got a couple Daiwas there. I can't remember I think it's their 300 Tatula.
That's my favorite reel.
Yeah,
I love that reel.
Nice reel. I feel like the Shimano is just a hair more refined, maybe, but they both do the job for sure.
Yeah, I feel like the Lexus I never really liked as much as the Tatula, the 300, but I love the Tatula 200s for everything. I use it for most of my saltwater shit. It's great.
Yeah.
Reel.
And I like the Daiwa smaller size reels more than the Shimano smaller size reels. So I kind of flip flop when I go to the big baits.
No,
but,
I don't. Tranks 200, I can't get with the drag just flicked on. I don't like it.
Yeah,
but
I got
everything
one,
else is.
around the gears down, fishing a frog with it. So it's no more.
You do have a reel sponsor too as well?
No, man, no real sponsor.
No.
I've had opportunities to get them, and it's just, I don't know. They only want to sponsor pro fishermen.
How does it see? Well, no, I think you're breaking through a little, right? Or not really. Do you have some sponsors yourself?
Yeah, I mean, I honestly, I've got to the point where I don't even try to work with anybody really besides 6 Sense. But I'll do some non-endemic sponsors that aren't in the fishing industry. Like I got a big deal with HelloFresh and Harry Shape,
awesome,
stuff like that. Yeah, so I do stuff like that on the side generally. But we're working on reels with 6 Sense, but we don't want to come out with another, $100 or less reel straight from China or Korea. We want to come out with something that's legitimate, and that takes a giant financial commitment and a lot of time to get those parts right and get everything dialed in. So it'll be in the coming years, and I'm excited for that.
That's really cool to hear someone's really involved like you in the company to actually make a good decision on like, hey, this is a piece of shit. I don't want it.
Oh,
you know what
sure.
I'm saying?
Yeah. I mean, we spent 2 or 3 years constantly trying all these different factories, and that's one thing a lot of people don't know about the industry is it's really easy to find a rod factory and get rods made exactly how you want them with exactly the blanks. Overseas, that is. Of course, you can reach out to companies to get blanks made here. It's just going to be substantially more expensive, and it's going to be a $250, $300 plus price point. But it's extremely difficult to find a factory that makes high quality reels, almost to the point where, I mean, Casey that runs 6 Sense, I think he is a guru in sourcing. I know that. He's done it. He's found the best factories for hard baits and painting overseas, but he's never found a good reel, a high quality reel factory. And so it's to the point where we need to develop it from the ground up because we don't want another, I don't know. I'm not going to name any companies.
I get what you're saying. Another like $100 reel that's going to shit out on you. Yeah.
Correct.
No, that's really cool though to see the thought that's going into it, because then another thing you don't have. I mean, there's probably 4 reels I could pick from that I would use. You know what I'm saying?
Exactly. Yep.
But I mean, other than that, there's not really anything else real. You got a lot of rods, you got a lot of baits, but reels, that's a good idea. We should fucking dolphin noise that out so no one copies your idea.
Exactly. Yeah, cut that, will you?
But that's really cool. And the sponsor thing, I kind of like that. See, and it's everyone knows it's hard for me to get sponsored because I say fucked up shit all the time. We get drunk on here. So I have a couple. I have Phoenix, that signed on, which I'm grateful for. Other than that, everyone really won't
Absolutely.
touch me,
No, it's too bad we're at the day and age still in 2022 that it's thought of that way. I had a sponsor. I had a lithium battery sponsor, a big deal lined up, actually. I'm not going to name the name of the company, but we had the deal done and everything, went to sign, and the guy's like, dude, it fell apart. Our owner doesn't like that you call your viewers MFers at the start of your video. And I was like, you're fucking telling me this now? Like, oh man.
I had that happen too.
That play of words, Milliken fishing, MF. I call them MFers. Someone came up with that a long time ago, and I'm like, this is fucking great. So, yeah.
Well, to me, and the thing I say is like, if you take these guys out on a fishing trip and we start drinking beers, I guarantee there's going to be an F-bomb. Everyone's going to say shit, horrible stuff. I guarantee it. So it's not like I'm saying anything that no one's going to hear, and it's not, my podcast is not made for fucking kids at all. I tell that all the time. It's explicit on the thing. So if your kid's watching this is not good. Like earmuffs now, So, and there's podcasts that are for that. Like, I listened to your Bass Talk Live one was great, and it's a different,
Yep.
But I mean, it's just, I don't know. You know what I'm saying? I'm at a loss right now where I'm like, okay, I got to figure something out because sponsorships are cool. I got to figure out a way to make it happen. The non-endemic one is a great one. I almost had Manscaped and nut trimmers. Yeah. But I didn't sell enough. So,
well, hey, they did the same thing with me too. So I don't know if it's, you didn't sell enough or they just wanted
they just want a free one. Did they do the same thing?
hustlers. Oh yeah, yeah, for sure.
And then they come back and go, "Oh, we wanted you to sell this money, but you're 5 short."
Dude, we're on the same page.
Yep, same thing. Fuck
Yeah,
me, and I
man,
gave free ads.
that's one thing I've learned with getting all these different offers, product, money, discount, whatever. The companies that like you for who you are and can relate to your brand are the most important sponsors. And that really goes for anyone in the industry. A lot of people that are listening to this podcast right now, I'm sure, are asking, how can I be a professional fisherman in any capacity in the industry? That's the biggest thing, man. Finding good companies that believe in you and you actually use and believe in their brand, and don't care if you say fuck or if you're rough around the edges, yeah. Or if you're totally against that. If you're totally against that, you don't swear, you're very straight laced. You probably shouldn't be doing a Manscaped promo or something like that. But
you probably got a hairy nuts. It's fine.
You got hairy nuts. Exactly.
But it's cool to hear from someone else that kind of has the same issues. Because I'm like, everyone I talk to, it's either they're pro staff or they're pro whatever. But at the same time, I feel like a lot of times, do you agree with this? By guys taking shit for free, it kind of brings down the whole sponsorship thing, because you could give someone 5 rods and they're going to promote the shit out of it, and they have a decent following. Yeah, and it's going to bring down guys that are trying to make a living, and I'm not there yet, but one day, like, hey, we can go to these 5 Instagram guys and they can just pump it for free and give them 10 rods each. And have you been running into that more? Like, you seen more of that lately?
Not lately. It's always been that way, man. Since
you think so?
5 years ago. Yeah, and it wrecks everything for everyone. But at the same time, those guys don't do anything. They don't move any product. It's not a valuable relationship with that company to have to reach out to 37 different people to sell whatever you could have if they would have just believed in you and grown with you. And it's something that I learned from the very start. That was one of the most important things I learned from a guy that did this for a living. And he said, these companies reach out and they want to give you a discount, or they want to just send you free product in return for promotion. And you get to a point and you tell them, no, that's not cool with me. That's not going to work. So there's no deal. And they're going to realize when they come back to you in 6 months and a year and 2 years, they're going to come back to you and say, oh, well, how about $1,000 to do this promotion? And you're going to say, my price is $5,000 now. And they're going to say, shit, we should have got in then. And you know what they're going to say then is, well, you do it for $4,000.
Nope.
And so that's when you capitalize. And so that's a big thing that I think people don't understand with this industry is you have to see value in yourself. You can't highball someone if you don't bring them any value. But once you start growing and knowing what you can bring to a company, don't sell yourself short. Don't do shit for free.
That's a big one. So how do you go about, do you have an involvement with the pro staff on 6 Cents?
I do. Yeah, absolutely.
So do you look at not just pro like Bassmaster guys, but like YouTube influencers as well, because they can push it?
For sure. We've kind of learned over time that professional tournament guys don't move much product at all. And the right type of guys on social media can move a shitload more product. And so we do still sponsor tournament guys. I mean, I think it's important. We know it's important to have the 6 Cents was founded on the idea that Casey is one of the best lure painters, if not the best, that I've seen in the world. And so he wanted to bring a custom painted style bait to mainstream to a lower price point, because at that time, you couldn't buy a crankbait cheaper than $30 that was custom painted, that was badass. So he wanted to bring to the mass market a custom painted style crankbait. And it's the same kind of thing there. And so we realized over time that these tournament guys, they couldn't move a lot of the same product. But it is a tournament company. We wanted a tournament quality product. But we have figured out over time that the right guys on YouTube and Instagram can move a ton of product as well.
And you could check with product code, right? Because it's a little different when you have someone's code, because do you guys sell directly?
Mm-hmm.
So you could check when someone's moving product by, hey, check my product code. You could push it that way, right? That makes complete sense. That's
the biggest thing we've done from the start is offer that 10% discount code. And a lot of people are like, oh, you guys think you're giving 10%. Like, that's a big deal. It's like, no, we do that to track sales. It's not to try to give people, we're not telling people it's the greatest deal in the world to get 10% off, but you're going to do it, you might as well do that and get your shipping covered or get your tax covered, whatever it may be, So yeah, it's something that we've been able to track very well over time. And it's worked out really well.
I think the 10% thing is great because to me, it's more of like, hey, if you're going to buy something, buy it through my channel. So it shows me supporting the company that's supporting me. Exactly. So it's not really like you're getting a deal. It's more like, do you like their product? Do you want to buy that product? Well, go through me because it's going to help me look better. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. And that's the biggest thing that helped me grow with 6th Sense was knowing exactly what each video was doing. And man, what a great way to track sales. And man, it's been really cool to see where it's really gone with, as my brand has grown. It's fun, man.
Well, Ben, you're not a fucking asshole. You're a great guy. I don't care what those swim baiters said.
Well, thank you. That's cool, man.
And I'm going to say thank you to Kyle that hooked this up too. Goonie.
Yeah.
Great dude. Thank you, Goonie.
Absolutely, man. Yeah. Absolutely. I'm glad to be on here, dude. I seriously listen to your podcast all the time. We drive, I think, more than any goddamn humans alive. We're 5 or 6 hours every day in the car. And so we listen to all of them. And, yeah, man, it's been fun listening to your channel grow and your platform grow as well.
I appreciate it. Let's plug where they can get anything related to you.
Absolutely. So all my channels are Milliken Fishing. If you want to check out YouTube, I caught a bunch of big fish on big baits. I know this is a lot of West Coast based guys are probably looking for some info. And from what I've heard, it sounds like a lot of guys aren't applying much the live scope, the forward facing sonar. So especially if you're trying to do that, go check out my YouTube, my Instagram, Facebook, stuff like that. If you want some, everyone here probably wears sunglasses on the water. I would love if you would just go check out waterlandco.com. We're out there wearing $250, $300 pairs of sunglasses, and they were falling apart and pieces of shit, and it cost $150 to get your glass lenses repaired. And we're just like, this is fucking bonkers. And so we started our own sunglass company with the idea to give that quality of lens, the best quality, at a lower price point with great customer service. And so we accomplished that, and I'm very proud of that. So if you guys need some sunglasses, go check them out.
Cool, man. Well, thanks again for coming on. I really appreciate it. And I hope to see that 15, 16, 17 this year from you.
Hopefully this next week, man. I'm going out with an Elite Series guy this next week.
There you go. You should get it.
Check it out.
All right.